Hey guys, it's me, the Afro Hamurai, and I'm looking at Saturn 2. I'm going to show you what it sounds like on my bass part. Let's go. Now to talk about Saturn 2, I did have to turn my audio engine off, so hopefully we don't have any issues with the frame rate. But let's talk about it. And this is a multi-band distortion plugin. You can add up to 6 bands on this, which is pretty impressive. I only tend to use like 2 or 3, but the capacity for 6 is there if you want it. You also have this A/B option, so you can flip between 2 different presets and have a listen. That's really useful because a lot of the time, if I want to A/B a lot of plugins, I have to have just like 2 of the same plugin and then have different settings on them and turn them on and off myself. So yay, I like this. When you click on a band, as well as choosing the type of distortion, which there's like loads, including rectify and destroy, which I really like using as like send effects. You can mess with the feedback into that band, the frequency that has that feedback as its center, the amount of dynamics going in and out of the band, how much of a mix there is in that band in the output, the amount of drive on that distortion, and you can also set the tone of that distortion. So I added a bit more presence and then left everything as it was, although I could do that a little bit down. There we go. Yay, I can continue with this track later. And then also the output level of that band, the same as using this big slider here. And you have exactly the same on the other one. And this slider and this are set to the same level, which is really cool because it means that if you're just like looking at it, you can still just really quickly adjust the level of your other bands without having to click and then go here, which is cool. I quite like that. Saturn 2 also has a high quality and linear phase mode. I don't really use these just because they add a huge amount of processor overhead. I only really use this at the end when I'm exporting my track or if I'm working with only audio and mixing and I'm using Ableton just for that. So if I flatten my stuff down, then I'm fine to use Saturn in high quality mode. Otherwise, I tend to leave it as it is and use it as a way to hear what it's doing. It still sounds good in its standard quality mode. If you're bouncing it out, however, you'll definitely want to make sure that you go in and make sure that this is enabled. I don't think that this is set on when it bounces, so you have to go in and do it yourself. But what I'm going to do with Saturn 2 is I'm just going to add in some bands and work with this bass part and let you hear what it sounds like. And that's an overview of Saturn 2. Genuinely, it's a really feature-rich distortion plugin, so if you want something that can add many different flavors of distortion onto any sort of music that you're making, it's worth giving it a try. But that's been this episode of Season to Taste. Cool.